Right, but a lot of times when these issues come before you, you are talking about how does it apply to you versus does it apply to the area? That's one of the things that you talk about.
We're going to call to order the Richland
Recording
County
in progress.
Richland County Board of Zoning Appeals March 6, 2024 meeting. And our agenda is outlined as is presented as outlined. And the very first thing we want to do is to recognize that we do have a quorum. We do have a quorum. And also, we note that there is an opportunity for public notice and public notice announcement. I want to just share with you this, that in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act, a copy of the agenda was sent to radio and television stations, newspapers, persons requesting notification, and posted on the bulletin board located in the county administration office. At this time, I will present the rules of order. A hold off on presenting the rules of order until we go through some other items on election of officers.
I would suggest you go ahead and go through the rules of orders first, and then we can get to the elections.
Perfect. All right. Then the rules of order. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-court. It will take evidence that's presented, and it will hopefully render a decision today for each case. The way that the mechanics of this will work is that the applicant will be allotted up to 15 minutes to present their case. Anyone that is signed up in opposition will be granted up to 3 minutes each to present their opposition. And then the applicant, if necessary, will be allotted up to 5 minutes of rebuttal. The board can extend those times at its discretion as needed. The board may have questions for the applicant and also potentially for anyone signed up to speak. The agenda is ordered as the board requires to conduct business. Usually the cases are ordered based on the filing date. Some cases may take longer than others depending on the complexity of the case, the issues at hand, number of witnesses, etc. When you are called to testify, please address your remarks to the board. No exchanges between the speaker and the audience. Please, no audience demonstrations or testimonies other than from the podium. You are under oath and are being recorded, so please don't promise to do something that you're not prepared to do. Don't fail to say something that's material to what you do intend to do, and please speak into the microphone. In terms of evidence presented, this is not as formal as court. We will accept documents that you've submitted, including any kind of last-minute submissions that you may bring today, and those items you submit will be weighed appropriately. Cases can either be approved, denied, or they could be granted a conditional decision based on meeting certain conditions. The decisions are final when the minutes are approved, which is typically 1 month from the meeting or at the next scheduled meeting. Any person who may have substantial interest in the decision rendered by the board today may request a reconsideration of the decision prior to the approval of the minutes. The reconsideration request must be based on a specific error made by the board. And if you have an issue, you may obtain more information about this process by contacting Mr. Price, the zoning administrator. Once the request for reconsideration has been exhausted, any person with a substantial interest in a decision of the board may appeal to the circuit court. And those appeals must be filed within 30 days after the decision of the board has been mailed, and that does not occur until after the minutes have been approved. If you are unhappy with the board's decision today, please follow the reconsideration and appeal process. Please don't voice your displeasure if you're frustrated with the board. A few housekeeping items. Please silence your phones or turn off your phones or pagers. Please make sure that your name is on the sign-in sheet for each case. And if you need to come and go, please do it quietly as needed. The board may have occasion to enter in executive session or recess. Anyone planning to provide testimony today, please rise to be sworn in. If you would, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. With the notice of public announcement and the rules of order read, then we will head to item number 3 on the agenda, which is the election of officers. And
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I'd like to propose one amendment to the agenda, and that would be to move item 3 and item 4 to the end of the agenda. You can put it along right before other business, so we can take it up after the public hearings. And the reason for that, based on the bylaws for the Board of Zoning Appeals, under section 4.1, chair and vice chair, and I'll really just kind of read the particular section as it relates to this conversation, that the chair and vice chair that are newly elected shall begin their terms of office at the close of the meeting at which they are elected. So that way you as the current chair will continue to serve out today's meeting, and then the newly elected chair and vice chair will serve for our next meeting in April.
so the board having heard that recommendation, do I have a motion?
Motion, we accept the changes.
So it has been moved, and if you don't mind me stating, it has been moved that items 3 and items 4 be moved after other business,
After the public hearing.
after the public hearing. So is that your motion?
Yes.
So it has been moved that items 3 and 4 be moved to after the public hearing.
I second.
So it's been moved and properly second. Call for question? All those in, you wanna,
Those in favor of the motion to move items 3 and 4 till after items 8, which is a public hearing, those in favor, Reese,
aye.
Hendricks,
Aye.
Fulmer, absent. Nelson,
Aye.
D. Reese,
Aye.
Lawson-Hauser.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes.
And I just want to make sure that there's some clarity here, because item 5 is the addition deletions to the agenda. And so I just want to know if there are any other
Will be.
additions or deletions that you would have to this agenda other than the ones forementioned.
I think one of the distinctions, Mr. Chair, was that was more of an amendment to the agenda versus, adding or deleting an item from the agenda.
Thank you. So any additions or
Yes, sir, and I only mention this because, just in case someone came for the particular case, but under public hearing, which is, item 8, Item number 3, which is case SE 24-001, Loretta Lewis, 817 Longtown Road, Columbia, South Carolina, 229229. A request for a residential group home to house youth waiting for permanent placement by state agencies. That case has been deferred until, hope maybe next month, but it's been deferred from this agenda to provide additional information.
Thank you for that information. So now we have had a formal amendment to the agenda, and we have had an item that has been deleted from the agenda. So now we are at what was previously item 6, which is the adoption of the agenda. So I would take a motion from the board to adopt the agenda with the amendment and the deletion.
Mr. Chair, I move a motion that we accept the agenda as read with the additions and the deletions and the amendment with the deletion of case number SE 24-001 being tabled to the next meeting and the deletions as stated by the zone administrator.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda as amended and with the deletions taken into consideration. Ready for question?
All right, those in favor of the motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Reese,
Aye.
Hendricks,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
D. Reese,
Aye.
Lawson Heiser.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, so now, and we have already read the rules of order, so we are at the place where you all have come for a public hearing. And so we have the first case, which is case number ZV23-002. And at this time, we will hear from the zoning administration.
Yes, sir. And prior to me reading the cases in the record, just make note that Richland County is now operating under a new land development code, which went into effect on March the 1st. However, the 2 cases that you have before you submitted prior to that, so they will still be under the previous land development code, but these will probably be the last cases that you will have under the previous code. So going forward, we will be operating under the newly adopted land development code for Richland County. Okay. All right. Our first item is case ZV 23-002. The applicant is requesting the Board of Zoning Appeals to grant a variance to encroach into the required side yard setback in the rural district. The applicant is Willie Floyd. The location is at 47 Love Valley Court in Chapin, South Carolina. The parcel size is about 1.38 acres. Currently, the property is residentially developed. The applicant proposes to construct an accessory structure, again, which will encroach into the required side yard setback by 5 feet, as calculated by staff. The required setback for the rural district, which is what the zoning was at the time of submittal, is 20 feet from the side yard setback. And that is also noted in your agenda. The subject parcel is conforming both in lot area and lot width. And according to the applicant, the proposed structure is intended to facilitate our caring of elderly and ill animals that we plan to foster in conjunction with local rescues. The applicant states that the long and narrow configurations of the parcel are a result of restrictions that were created 45 years ago. The applicant also states that granting of the variance will have negligible impact on adjacent properties due to the distance between residences and the buffer and the woods adjacent to the proposed structure. Upon staff's review, staff feels that the request does not meet all of the requirements for the granting of a variance, as all the requirements must be met for the approval. The applicant has not demonstrated that the reference configurations of the parcel are exclusive to the subject site. The parcels along Love Valley Court are similar in area and width and configurations. So for those reasons, Staff recommends disapproval of the request.
So does that conclude the
That concludes staff's.
administration?
Yes, sir.
So at this time, we're going to ask the applicant if they would come forth and you can share with us and make your case.
And Ms. Teresa Floyd and Mr. Willie Floyd, once you guys get to the podium, please state your name for the record and your full address.
I'm Teresa Floyd, 47 Love Valley Court, Chapin, South Carolina.
Willie Floyd, same address.
Thank you so much for allowing us to present our request to you. I'm Teresa Floyd, and I'm here with my husband, Will, to humbly request a variance to build 15 feet from the drainage easement on our property instead of the 20 feet rule which is currently in place. We would love to build a structure which would allow me to continue my animal rescue work, but also preserve our driveway. Building in this area would put it in immediate proximity to my home, allowing quick, essentially constant access to my babies. I foster, keep, and care for a variety of animals in different situations, including elderly animals, pregnant animals awaiting delivery, and even hospice cases. I work in conjunction with Palmetto Lifeline and also take in animals from different situations, including from my patients. I'm a physician. They come in telling me sob stories that they've heard, and next thing you know, I'm taking in more babies. My chief assistant in my venture is my 74-year-old mother who has some health issues. It would be so nice for her to be able to continue helping me without having to walk a good ways multiple times a day in every kind of weather to care for these precious angels. We will continue to care for them no matter what, but it would be so fabulous to have them close by. By current rules, to put this structure in would mean losing our driveway and having to make another. Unfortunately, if we have to do this, it would likely make this venture cost prohibitive. We keep certain animals actually in our house, especially those with health issues, but we're running out of space inside, and this structure would allow us to help more animals that need close monitoring. I currently have 9 cats, including a blind kitten, 1 in hospice care with me, and 5 dogs, all of which are rescues in some way. I did have 14 cats, but found homes for 5 of the 6 kittens I delivered in August after fostering for Palmetto Lifeline, their 9-month-old mother, while she was pregnant. I pay all costs of their care out of pocket and never release an animal to anyone unless they are spayed, neutered, have their shots, and are microchipped. I'm truly blessed to care for these babies, and I'm so fortunate to have a wonderful husband who is willing to build this structure for me within financial reasonability, I don't even know if that's a word, and a mother who's willing to help so much even though she has her own health issues. Thank you so much for considering our request, and we truly appreciate your time and consideration.
I just want to mention that the properties next to us, the lots are out there about 1.4 to 1.5 acres. They're long and narrow. There's nothing on the other side of the structure, as they mentioned earlier, except woods. So it's not going to impose upon our neighbors. But if we don't get the variance, then we have a circle drive. You know, we would have to move the circle drive, which makes the project, prohibitive. And so what I don't want to do, my wife is dedicated to this, been or so her whole life. As we age and get older, this is our forever home, is to have her trying to go back and forth as she does now during the night in all kind of weather, rains, snow, whatever the case may be, check on these animals all during the night. It's not only not safe for her to do it, but it's dangerous going, for her to go back and forth again. It's such an inconvenience. It'll be much nicer to have it right next to her home so she can continue to do it as she ages, and her mother can help her now when I'm away. Thank you so much.
So this plat or this picture that we have on the screen here, is that also what they're seeing out? Okay, so I have a question for you. All right. Help me understand on this picture, where is the proposed structure that you're building? I see your circular driveway here.
Mm-hmm.
But can you help me?
Yes.
It might be even better.
We may be able to identify the area. And I apologize, we do have something here we can pass around to you. Also.
I have it on a diagram as a proper submitted to you.
Thank you.
This is the red structure there.
On this, on the screen that,
It would be right
oh,
beside with,
so is this the red structure that we're seeing on the screen here?
no, it's the red structure there. As you see, runs up beside the driveway. It'll be right in that area. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and if you see on
Yes,
your
sir.
screen,
Yes.
Mr. DeLage has kind of provided, I would say is pretty much matches the proposed location that was presented to you. No.
Not only because of the proximity, I mean, that really was the only place that we could put it on our property to make it closer so my mom can come out the garage and just walk right over, you know, literally just right into there. We just didn't have another place to put it.
Let me ask, was there any, well, I know that there was notice that went out to the community. Was there any opposition from the community?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Our neighbors actually are kind of glad I do this.
He's an animal lover as well.
A lot of questions that
No, you're good.
I want to ask this. The property that is adjacent to yours, is that a piece of property that you know is owned by someone, or is it maybe wetland or something, or is it?
No, is where the yellow line runs onto the upper side of where the structure is actually a ditch. That's what we talking about getting closer to, which will save, if you look at the front corner, will save our driveway if we can move it over just a little bit. On the far side of the next property over is nothing but woods. The only home is sitting out on the end. I think it's on that diagram I showed you, I circled and put on there the closest home, which is, I've been our neighbors for over 20 years. We've been there for over 20 years. But that's another lot beside us there with nothing but woods on the other side of the structure. The home is out on the end.
Anyone have any questions?
One question. You said other animals. I heard you mention dogs and cats. What other animals do you take care of?
Well, I have found some, you know, baby squirrels and things like that, but mostly it's dogs and cats. And usually what happens is Palmetto will have a case that really needs somebody that can provide a high level of care for these animals. And with me being a human physician, you know, they kind of feel comfortable, and I know the CEO very well, and so, and basically nobody else will take them. And so I take them, and usually it's an expectant mother or, you know, an elderly animal that's dying, things like that. So really just dogs and cats primarily, but occasionally an outlier, a baby rabbit or something.
Right now, she worries to death in the wintertime. The last cat had the babies, and it was cold outside, and so she was worried to death about them. So she'll go back and forth during the night, checking on them, make sure the kids are okay. And Again, we fostered elderly dogs before just to give them a place to live until they could, pass on their own. Whenever the owners got too old or whatever to take care of them.
Yeah, we've had every situation from somebody walking into my practice saying, there's two 17-year-old dogs whose owner literally dropped dead, and no shelter will take them, or they don't have room, and plus they're elderly. And if somebody doesn't take them, they're going to be euthanized, which their only health issue is they're old. So we will take those. We had two sisters that we did that for not too long ago, and so we brought them in, and Bella and Chloe lived with us until they became pretty decrepit, and it was obvious. And so I actually pay the vet to come to my house and put them to sleep so I can hold them.
We seriously appreciate your consideration. Like I said, this is her passion, what she wants to do the rest of her life. I just want it to be what's convenient for her, so that I know what it's like to have her go out there when it's cold, it's rainy, and everything else dark outside. And, this would make it much more convenient for her.
Let me just ask one more question.
Yes, sir.
All right. Why the consideration for this size as opposed to one that might be just a tad bit smaller that would allow it to fit within the setback? And I'm just asking because there may be some
Well-
specificity that is needed for this size.
No, I think it's just so I can have the capacity, if needed, to care for more. One thing we'd like to do, if we were able to build that, is part of it have windows so the cats can have their own play area, safe, with, just with windows around and things like that. So I think it's, the main reason for the size is just so we don't have to do it again if we decide to continue to grow, because we both are kind of getting to retirement age, and so we might be able to, take more in as our workload, decreases.
All right.
I have a question. Staff. Variance appeal, where it says the conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the facility. They stated that these restrictions do not apply to substantive such as eating. Is that correct?
Typically, when we're looking at other parcels, in comparison to see if they're, if the conditions apply, we're typically looking in the general area. I mean, we don't typically go outside to other subdivisions or other developments.
But Eagles Rest literally is just on the other side of the asphalt road. It's a newer subdivision. Our subdivision is so old.
That's it right there.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
you look at the, right above you there, from our driveway over,
so the houses are very close together.
at the top of the map there.
It's a new subdivision.
If you take the cursor and go straight to the top, that circle of houses right there, the circle of houses, that's Eagles Rest.
If we didn't live in an older subdivision, I couldn't even think about doing this in a new subdivision because the lots are so small and everything.
Other questions? Ready to render a decision? Ready to vote? Your point for consideration?
I can show you pictures of the babies if you'd like to see some.
Well, listen, the thing is that we understand your commitment to and your mission to the work that you're doing. We just have to make sure that it's compliant and within the standards that we have in order to make the decision. And so, I think I know I don't want to be presumptuous for everybody else, but the reason that I'm asking my question is because I'm trying to figure out exactly where you lie within those standards. And so, I want to know if Mr. Price, is there a point of consideration?
Yes, sir. Okay, so I would, looking back at the staff's recommendation as we went through the criteria, typically we look solely at the parcel itself and just compare the parcel. Maybe for the board's consideration, one of the things that you could look at if you wanted to identify something that's more unique about this parcel as compared to the other ones is the actual location of the driveway itself. Looking at the other parcels, they don't seem to have, that circular drive that extends pretty wide. So you could take that into consideration.
I want to ask if there are, in your professional experience, are there any special considerations that might be applicable in this case based on your experiences in other similar ones?
No, sir. Again, we always base our decisions strictly on the criteria. And again, upon looking at it, I think that if we take the driveway into consideration, I think staff's recommendation may actually lean more toward a recommendation of approval if it's based on the location of the drive. And also considering, I believe they can't go further back because of the septic tank also. So because of those conditions, I believe that all of the criteria could be met, and the staff's recommendation would lean more toward approval versus denial.
Okay, so I would offer a motion. So I move that we approve this application based on the special consideration of the circular driveway and its location and the proximity of the septic tank that would make this a special consideration opposed to other properties in the area.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any questions? Or a call for question? We're ready for vote.
All right, those in favor of the motion for approval? A yes would be in support of that motion. Reese?
Aye.
Hendricks?
Aye.
Wilt Nelson? D. Reese?
Yes.
Lawson-Hauser?
Yes.
All right, and motion passes.
Passes.
I can't
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Can't thank you all enough.
Absolutely.
Sincerely appreciate what you do.
All right. Our second case is
So our next case is case ZV 23-003. The applicant is requesting the Board of Zoning Appeals to grant a variance to encroach into the required front yard setback in the residential single-family, what was the residential single-family low-density district. This property will now be identified as R2. But the applicant is Virginia L. Newman. The location is at 2027 Elm Abode Terrace, Columbia, South Carolina. Parcel sits on a little less than 6/100 of an acre. Currently, the property is residentially developed. The applicant proposes to establish an open carport which will encroach into the required front yard setback. The applicant is proposing to establish a 528 square foot carport that will encroach into the required front yard setback, which is 25 feet by essentially 20 feet. So it'll be 5 feet from the property line. The existing structure was constructed in 1970, and it currently, in that structure encroaches into the required front yard setbacks along Elma Bow Terrace and Melissa Avenue by 5 feet and 8 feet respectively. According to the applicant, the presence of a septic tank at the edge of the concrete driveway restricts the ability to establish the proposed carport further into the property. Upon staff's review, we feel that all of the criteria for the granting of a variance has been met, and staff recommends approval of this request. Normally, we can just kind of go right based on an aerial, but the staff did take some pictures. This is a little unique. One of the things that you will see is that the current home already encroaches into the required setback. So the proposed open carport will be in line with the home. One of the things that staff did take note of, Tommy, do we have any more pictures other than that? Yes. So one of the things that staff took note of was, and if you look at the second picture where it's labeled as view along Melissa Drive, one of the things we take into consideration is, will this impose any type of visibility issues, not only for the property owner backing out, but for other vehicles coming along Melissa Drive? They may not see the car coming out. But there are two reasons staff still feels that this would not pose any threats or any potential issues with the community, is that the carport is going to be open. So it's not, if it was going to be enclosed, that might be a different issue, but it's going to be open. And also, that, again, it's along the same lines as where the home is, so there really isn't much of a difference as far as from affecting visibility. So again, for those reasons, staff recommends approval.
Thank you much. And so is there anyone who is here to speak on behalf of this application?
Yes, sir.
And the only reason I ask that is because I know this sign-in sheet has a different name on it, so I didn't want to make sure, I wanted to make sure that anybody wasn't confused about that. So if you would, you can come right to the podium, sir.
And if you would, sir, just state your name and address for the record.
I am Jacob McKee. My address is 2948 Dale Drive, Columbia, South Carolina, 29209.
Aki, let me ask this, because you signed on the applicant line item. So are you here to speak on behalf of the project, or are you here to speak against?
I'm here to speak on behalf of the project.
Thank you. Thank you. I just need that clarity.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And one more question, is there any relation to Miss Virginia L. Newman? Because that's who we have as the actual applicant.
I have no relation to her at all.
Mr. Mackey has been representing the applicant through the whole process. He helped prepare the documents that are submitted, and previously at our last meeting, unfortunately, we weren't able to have it due to lack of a quorum. Ms. Newman was here, but he is here to represent the property owner.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to thank the panel for having us and receiving us today as representative. I'm a general state contractor, and I'm here to represent Ms. Newman. And we prepared the paperwork that we sent in to the Richland County. And Mr. Price pointed out all the points that I don't know what else I can add, but I'm available to add, answer any questions you have. We're proposing to, because of the health condition of this residence, they've lived in this house for many years, and now that they're older, they can't make the incline anymore. Her knees are going out, and it's about a 3 or 4 degrees incline on that property from the driveway up to the entering the home, and that's why they need help. And the driveway would assist the residents when they get out of their car with their packages and have to make that incline to get into the closest entrance to the home. And so that's one of the reasons why they need a carport too. And they need to have it as close as we can possibly get to the house, rather than trying to sit it further back into the property. The property is very narrow, but it's elongated. And we inherited the sins of the past, the developer that set the house in that position 7 feet from the property line. And that's what's caused the problem. And so they have inherited that situation. And now that they're older and she's getting treatment for her knees, she can't make the incline to get into the house. And that's what I need to add to it. Mr. Price has done a very good job of pointing out the numbers and why we need to locate it as close as we can and to the property. And we didn't know that the county had the full authority over that property after, we just we understand the setback, but you have full jurisdiction over the 25 feet that belong to the owner. I'm familiar with the setback, but I didn't know you had that jurisdiction over 25 feet.
Well, Mr. Mackey, we certainly appreciate your testimony. And I'm just wondering if there's any questions from this board. Anybody?
I do have a question, Mr. Mackey, and I'm looked at the layout and I looked at the screen, and it's gonna be a carport. And just based on the picture, I'm assuming they'll have concrete footers. Will they?
They have what now?
Will the poles have concrete footers?
They would have concrete footing, yes.
It looks like the driveway is really close to the septic tank. I guess my question is will the weight of that new structure, albeit an open structure, cause residual impacts to the septic tank that's already there, that's so close?
Right. Due to the drain field and the septic tank, we're limited how close we can get to the septic tank. And I hope that answers your question.
Any additional questions? No. I'll make a recommendation. So I move that we accept the administration's recommendations to approve. It is moved and properly second that we accept the recommendation of the administration for approval. Time for question.
All right, we have a motion for the approval of case ZV 23-003. A yes is in agreement with the motion for approval. Those in favor, Reese?
Yes.
Hendricks?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
D. Reese?
Yes.
Lawson-Heiser?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McAfee, thank you, sir.
Certainly thank the panel,
Absolutely.
thank the board this is a need.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, so with the public hearings, the fact that we have concluded the public hearings, now we can go back to the items that were shifted on the agenda, and that is the election of officers and adoption of the 2024 calendar. So, the election of officers. Is it appropriate for us to open up the floor for nominations for the office of chairman?
Sir.
All right, so at this time, why don't we will open the floor for nominations for the office of chairman.
Mr. Chair, I would like to move a motion that Robert T. Reese remain chair for the 2024.
I second.
It's been moved and properly second that Robert Reese be added to the names, to the list of those that are considered for chairman. Are there any other considerations? Any other considerations? All right, so it's been moved and properly second that Robert Reese be considered for chairman. Time for question.
All right. Change this around a bit. Those in favor of Robert Reese for chair for the 2024 year? Lawson-Heiser,
Yes.
D. Reese,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Reese.
Abstain.
You can't vote for yourself. I mean, how can anybody else?
Yes. I thought I added some color to it. All right, so then let's move right into the position of co-chair. So we will open the floor for nominations for co-chair.
I nominate that Ms. Hendricks remain as co-chair for the 2024 year.
I second.
It's been moved and properly second that Ms. Hendricks remain as co-chair, or nomination be put into or name be put into consideration for nomination for a co-chair. Any other nominations? Probably second. Time for question.
All right. Again, those in favor of Sasha, hope I'm saying it right, Hendricks for vice chair?
Yes.
A yes is in favor of that motion. Lawson-Heiser,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Hendricks.
Professionally obliged, yes.
I only assume talking to me for
Yeah.
age before
we'll work
wisdom.
We will work on that. All right, so that motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay, so the last item for consideration on this agenda is the adoption of the 2024 calendar. And you have received a tentative calendar in front of you that has all of the dates for consideration. Is there a recommendation to accept or to adopt the 2024 calendar?
Make a motion, we adopt the calendar as submitted.
Second.
So it's been moved and properly second that we adopt the calendar as submitted. I do have a question. So where are we currently on this calendar? You know, I just want to make sure that I know, because here we are in March.
Yes.
So is this March 6th here that this calendar begins? And so this calendar also includes January and February. Is that of the next year?
No, sir, this is all for 2024.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So
yeah,
we're voting on this in March, but this really should have been a calendar that we adopted in January.
Correct.
Got it. I just want to make sure. I want to make sure I'm clear. That's January and February of 2024 and not 2025. That was just my clarity. All right, so it has been moved and properly second that we adopt the calendar that has been presented. We're ready for question.
All right, those in favor of the adoption of the calendar for the 2024 year? Yes is in agreement with the motion for adoption. Reese,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Robert Reese,
Yes.
Lawson-Heiser.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes.
All right. Is there any other business that is for consideration on this agenda? Any other business?
No,
I have a question, actually. the minutes from the January meeting, I know the February meeting was postponed. Did we did not review the January minutes.
Did y'all not get those for? y'all
Even
not
if we
received those?
did get them in February, we didn't have a quorum, so they wouldn't have been approved.
Right.
And I don't remember whether they were submitted to us or not, but I'm concerned, and that's a good question, because the cases that we had in January won't be official until those minutes are approved. And so my question is, even if because I know I have not reviewed the minutes. And so I don't know about anybody else, but I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on the minutes without having reviewed them.
If I'm correct, and I'm gonna go through, I don't believe you met in January. And I think in February was actually, in February was the one that we couldn't have a meeting.
Okay.
So I'm looking and, did we meet in December? We couldn't, no, in January. And February, same thing, right? Oh, you had the wrong notes. All right, so we couldn't meet in January. Okay, so what happens, we couldn't meet in January, and so we ended up missing February, and so we're in March.
Okay, so if you would repeat that about the January meeting, you said
So
we could not,
No, so January was when we did not have a quorum.
okay.
And due to some advertisement issues, we did not meet in February. So the first meeting is in March.
Okay, so so let me make sure I ask this question, just for clarity's sake. There are no minutes that need approving.
We wanted to, did you meet in December? Did you meet in December? I'm going through mine. I believe if there were minutes to be approved, I'm just checking our agenda to make sure that there wasn't a meeting in December, because that would have been the last meeting you had. But if you have not had a meeting and if you did not meet in December, then we will be looking at the approval of the minutes from November 1st, 2023, which we'll definitely get to you by the next meeting for your review and hopefully approval.
So I want to make sure I'm clear. So we had a meeting in November, and we haven't had a meeting since. Or we haven't have official quorum to have a meeting. So the November minutes have not yet been approved.
Yeah, I believe that's the case, yes, sir.
Okay, so let me ask this question. If somebody's been waiting out there since November to have their, they have not?
No, sir.
Well, tell me what that means.
No, what typically happens is historically, what has always been said to the applicants is that it becomes official upon the approval of the minutes. However, if they decide to proceed on, they do it at their own risk in case there's a consideration. So I don't think any of the applicants have been waiting
Right, okay.
at this time.
So-
Not holding anyone up, but to the point, we do need to get you the
Yeah.
minutes so we can make that official.
Okay, so I really want an opportunity to expedite the approval of the November meeting minutes so that we've done our due diligence to make sure that we have officially the actions that we undertook at that meeting are in the official records.
Yes, sir.
So is there a precedent of having a confirmation of minutes in the interim of meetings?
For what I think where you're headed, the only way to approve those the minutes from November is for us to actually have a meeting. And then you can call a special call meeting in which we all need to, we each need to adjourn to approve those minutes. And that may be the only item on the agenda. Or you can just wait until the April meeting and approve those. So again, I understand your need to, but I don't think anyone is pressing at this time, waiting
You haven't
for
had
this.
any calls or anything saying, oh, wait, what's going on?
No, actually, I believe one of the locations may actually already be operating. So, for one of the cases.
You know, I just read those directions at the beginning, like if you move on your own without this, then you. So anyway, my concerns are so noted for the record.
Yes, sir, and you will have your minutes for each of the meetings from the previous meetings going forward. So, apologize. I think we just had a number of, have we had cases or for various reasons, you haven't gotten the minutes, so I apologize for that.
So let me ask one more question, and I want to do this because this is just for my clarity's sake. In this day of virtual interactions, is there a precedent, not just with this board, but for any other board to have a meeting that is an official meeting that is done under a virtual format as opposed to an in-person format?
The precedent was set during COVID when we had a number of meetings, but I believe everyone, including council, has had in-person meetings once we were back open. And one of the main reasons is, technology has advanced a good ways, but there are always some issues. Seems to be some issues with sometimes making sure people are able to express their thoughts, whether, for or against, or just want to make comments regarding cases. So we've always found that having them in person actually it makes it better.
Be ye it known that my question was not about the meetings that we would have that were involving public input. And I was just asking if in fact that we did decide to have a special call meeting that was for this body of commissioners, would it be appropriate and or legal to have a special call meeting for us that would be virtual? That's my real question.
That is something that we will look into, and I can get back with you, and then you as the chair, after conferring with the other board members, can call a special call meeting if that is something that we can do.
And this is all in regards to just getting minutes out of the way. And we might as well start with a clear slate.
Yes,
So
sir.
anyway, I would ask if you would check on that and let us know, and then we could be in contact with all of the members of the board. And if I could also ask if you would, just for the sake of convenience, to submit a copy of those minutes from that meeting to everybody on this board so that we would have them in our possession, just so we would be able to have an opportunity to review them if, in fact, a special call meeting could be accounted for.
Yes, sir, we'll make sure that you have the minutes for the meeting, regardless of whether we could have the virtual meeting, but we'll make sure that you have those.
Any other business? Hearing none. This meeting is adjourned.